Welcome to Energy Conscious Art. Each week I take a painting and attempt to explain what it was I tried to express through that painting. And my paintings are really dedicated to trying to show how everything is energy, and this energy consciousness has the tendency to unify everything we see, as opposed to seeing everything as separate objects. It also allows me to paint the invisible world of self-definitions, of desires and fears, and to show the dynamics between our waves of self-definition and our behavior, all in very simple line wave form strokes. This becomes a very powerful language for understanding, especially things like which way to head if you're interested in your own self-realization, in becoming as awake as you possibly can be. The reason it makes it simple is because it makes it visible. It is a kind of roadmap that shows us which direction to head in order to liberate ourselves from the polarity that we have kept as our self-definitions, but are frankly things that cause us tremendous struggle. And these struggles are unnecessary when we realize that they are not who we truly are. So, today's painting is the Last Supper in energy symbols, so that we could see a very clear map of the difference between an awakened, self-realized being, in this case Jesus, and the apostles whom I have taken to be polarized consciousness. So, without hesitation, let's look at the Last Supper in the energy symbol language so that it will become really clear to us how we should feel and in which direction we should head to become awakened for ourselves in the paths that we have chosen to take. Thanks very much. I hope you enjoy this. The painting we're going to talk about today is my reinterpretation of the Last Supper in energy symbols. And the reason why I want to focus on the Last Supper is because it's a perfect format for showing a kind of energy X-ray of the difference between an awakened being and we polarized beings, so that we can compare the difference, and it becomes a visual roadmap so that it explains what direction we should head in order to move toward our own self-awakening. On the left of this painting is a man who is about to walk a tightrope, a rope that extends from one end of the painting to the other. In his hand is a gyroscope. I will explain why in a minute, why he is so confident about walking that tightrope. And for now, let's move in on the apostles, and so I can explain exactly what I mean by a polarized consciousness. With this apostle here, we have a self-definition, waves of identity that move through him. This represents desire, this fear. Desire, fear, desire, fear. And that wave began in childhood. Here's another wave. Fear, desire, fear, desire. When these are equal and opposite, such as in this moment, there is a dot, and the dot represents a moment where desire and fear have canceled their equal and opposite, and they've left a moment in consciousness of lucidity, neither desirous nor fearful, but present, beholding. This is the same as an awakened state. These waves of identity come to us in childhood. For example, when we're children, someone hands us a glass of milk. We can't hold it, we spill it. It happens again. It happens a third time. All of a sudden, we find someone is extremely angry at us. We look up and the energy penetrates us. We see ourselves in an unpleasant way through someone else's eyes. They say things like, "You did that on purpose. You are just trying to make me crazy. You're bad." These things create waves, either of negative or positive origin. It doesn't matter. Waves of praise are the same in the opposite phase. "Oh, you're so talented. You're going to be a movie star when you grow up." This also causes us to see ourselves from an external point of view. When we see ourselves from an external point of view, one of these waves is created, either to live up to the desire of becoming world famous, and then falling down into the fear that that will not happen, and then rising to, yes, it will, I will do this, I will achieve this, and then falling into the fear. Here we also see an interesting phenomenon with moments of emphasis. With each wave of identity, we open our eyes at a preferred moment. That is, this person is almost at the peak of that desire, almost at fulfillment. And he opens his eyes there, almost at the peak. And so he is always in the process of just about to make it, whatever that is. It could be down here in the trough of fear, so that this person is always afraid, without realizing that that's a strobed moment of consciousness that allows that person to believe that they are always only afraid. And these moments of desire, of confidence, are disacknowledged. So that's basically how the language works. We spend our lives continually trying to disprove that we are bad or prove that we are good. In either case, we ride and identify with these waves that were given to us arbitrarily by other people who caused us to see ourselves through an external point of view. Now, further information about these people is that they have taken on various colors which symbolize different aspects of their being. Yellow symbolizes intellect. Orange symbolizes a kind of transition between defining themselves physically as physically strong to intellectually as a person of thought. The brown is very earthy, very humble, very earth-oriented. In this apostle, the green symbolizes heart. These are just known and usually agreed upon color symbolism that I've adopted to this language. Now let's look at another apostle for a moment. This apostle has always interested me. He has a moment of great desire or confidence, and then a loop into fear, desire, fear, desire, fear. This cancellation happens 2 times between fear and desire, which gives him 2 moments of awakeness, lucidity, per phrase or length of a given set of waves of self-definition that he is identifying with. These waves change slowly through time, and there's an invisible line that is neither desirous nor fearful, but is very, very close to the center self. His color is blue, which is religious. Behind him is a very extremely polarized being, heartfelt, but extreme desire, extreme terror, really, extreme desire, extreme terror, and even a greater fear here. And it leaves only a brief moment where this and this are opposite, and there's a cancellation pattern. And that is a moment of lucidity. So this person experiences that little brief moment of feeling good, feeling like himself, feeling all the world is full of possibilities, very briefly, before inundated with identity, with great emotions, great desires, great fears that he is struggling with all of the time. His body is symbolized by this orange, which is transitional between being physically strong, red, and intellectually strong, yellow. It creates a very bright orange, so that he is somewhat conflicted between identifying himself as a very strong, physically strong man, or an intelligent man, a man of thought. Now let's look at the awakened figure. We can compare the two. Whereas the apostles have taken on these great colors and struggle between desire and fear and identity with both of these waves of desire and fear, always struggling to see whether they are desirous or fearful, being in reaction to these waves, having a wave of desire and wanting not to have that wave of desire, having a wave of fear and not wanting that wave of fear, always identifying with the waves and at the same time reacting for and against them. The awakened figure, we can see, has taken no such colors. And as a result of that, this person becomes indistinguishable from the rest of the universe, which is symbolized by this ever-present blue that is throughout the painting. In other words, when you relinquish your identity, you become indistinguishable from the rest of the universe. It is these identities that were given to us in childhood and throughout our lives by other people that have convinced us that that is who and what we are. That when you surrender those identities, you become indistinguishable from the rest of the universe, which means for the price of giving up the concepts of seeing yourself through other people's eyes and identifying with how they labeled you throughout your life. By giving that up, you gain being the entire universe and everything in it that ever was ever will be, and is now. So, giving up our identities is a very minuscule price to pay for inheriting the universe. That means that everything before you is an aspect of you when you surrender your differentiating self-definition. Notice too that the awakened figure has taken desire and fear and simply accepted them totally, in a sense saying, I desire everything, I fear everything. I desire nothing, I fear nothing. End of the question. No longer is this figure attempting to continually identify with these waves of external points of view of himself. This circle symbolizes that desire and fear were here, but witnessed by this presence, a third presence, a presence that is awareness pure and simple, not polarized, not consciousness, which is awareness that has velcroed on to some wave of self-definition, but completely free awareness, witnessing the desires and the fears from a point of view that is neither desirous nor fearful. These are simply waves of energy that move through himself as awareness. Well, this gives us the freedom to do the same thing. As Jesus was quoted to once have said, while he was working miracles, you can do this and more. Which means to me, we can go from this to this. And this is a kind of energy x-ray of in which direction to head to achieve that. By allowing our identities to simply fall away and see ourselves from the point of view of pure awareness, we free ourselves from the struggle of being simply human beings. We are not human beings who have a consciousness in our heads as we are taught. We are awareness having a human experience. Awareness has a medium of self-expression. That medium of self-expression is energy. When we look out upon the universe, or whatever is in front of us, a book, a television, a computer, a sidewalk, a tree, we are looking from the point of view of pure awareness, and we are witnessing and hopefully beholding our own medium of self-expression, energy. We see now why awareness is unified throughout the whole universe. There is nothing that is not penetrated by this infinitely present awareness. And its medium of self-expression, our human bodies, our minds, the world we find ourselves in, this is completely unified as one medium. It is not made of separate objects. And that's the teaching of this painting. That's why I chose to paint the Last Supper in energy symbols, so that we could see how we are unified with one another. There is a single awareness. It is seamlessly unbroken. And each of these apostles have the identical awareness as the awakened figure. There is only one awareness, almost like an ocean that all energy is immersed in. But we have made an overlay of identity that blurs the idea that we are unified with the whole. We see ourselves as separate from the universe, separate from one another. Therefore, we long for one another. Yet, anything that we could ever long for, we already are. Because this is who we are. This is who we are. This is who we are. This is who we think we are. This is who we are taught we are. This is the result of being made to see ourselves through some other point of view other than our own two eyes, our own perfect awareness. Now let's look at the man about to walk the tightrope. This man is about to step out very confidently and walk across the expanse of this painting on a tightrope. In his hand is a gyroscope. Those who know about gyroscopes know that if the gyroscope is spinning fast enough, round and round and round, and it has a heavy rim, it becomes extremely difficult to move off of its gyroscopic plane. In fact, you cannot twist it, tilt it, or do anything but hold it straight up and down. In that way, it becomes as if it is a pole from his two hands, or one hand in this case, straight down, anchored into the ground. As he walks across the tightrope, if he leans to the right, he straightens himself on the gyroscopic stability of the gyroscope in his hands. If he leans to the left, he straightens himself toward the right. It will remain straight up and down, regardless of anything. So, the symbolism is obvious. If we become centered in our true self, which is awareness itself, we become absolute, no longer relative to the ground, to gravity, to the fear of falling. There is nowhere to fall. We become the center of our universe. His face is made up of various energy symbols: expansion, contraction. His lips are made of what I call a sign of equilibrium, which is lucidity, neither desirous nor fearful. On his clothing, he wears such signs of equilibrium. The gyroscope, too, has signs of equilibrium in all directions. Behind him is a symbol of wholeness, and below that, a symbol of expansion. The other side of this altar has a symbol of contraction. This painting is The Last Supper in energy terms. Thanks so much for watching. I hope that you got something out of this energy symbol language and have a sense now of which direction to head toward your own self-awareness, self-realization. It lies very easily in the realm of letting go of these identities that were given to us by other people, by other experiences where we were made to see ourselves through either someone else's eyes or even concepts' eyes. Concepts such as good people. In other words, a good person wouldn't do what I just did. That's seeing yourself through a concept of a point of view. That's the same as stepping outside of yourself and seeing yourself through that external point of view. One analogy that I use is if someone does something to you that is hostile, if they somehow at work humiliate you or chew you out or do something that hurts your feelings, what we do often is similar to being on a boat and an enemy ship pulls up. You take a smaller boat and you row over to the enemy ship. You climb aboard. You find their gun sights. You look at your ship through their gun sights and you begin firing upon your own ship. That's what happens when you see yourself through someone else's eyes from a hostile point of view. You can do your ship very, very much harm. You can even, in the case of suicide, sink your ship. You're not home to defend yourself. You have abandoned your own consciousness in order to see yourself through hostile eyes and use their presumed anger against yourself. That's what's happening when we see ourselves through someone else's eyes, and that's a way of defining ourselves. They are attempting to define us. If you have zero self-definition, none of that takes place. Someone can be very, very hostile towards you, and allow that energy, because you have no identity, to move through you the way liquid moves through a sieve. In other words, you can have a sieve over a sink. You could pour pure sweet water through that sieve. It's unchanged. You could pour wine through that sieve. It's unchanged. You could pour acid through that sieve. It's unchanged. Boiling water, it's unchanged. All of these represent people having energy, throwing energy toward you, either sweet or bitter, and allowing it to move through you like a sieve. And if you close up those sieve holes, it becomes a cup, a cauldron that holds that anger in that case, and it begins to deteriorate within you. It deteriorates you. It's harmful to you. Open those holes. Allow other people's energies that are not welcome to move through you, and you will be moving closer and closer to relinquishing an identity and becoming indistinguishable from the rest of the universe. Thanks very much. I'm Ross Drago, and I hope you enjoyed looking at one of my paintings. Next time we'll be talking about a painting entitled A Walk in Awareness. I'm Ross Drago. I'm eager to share a lifetime of painting and writing books on this subject of energy consciousness. Remember, it's not what we see, it's that we see. We are awareness having a human experience. I hope to see you soon. I hope that you subscribe to this so that we can have a continued conversation. And I welcome your comments. Please go to rossdrago.com, look through my other work, and let me know what you think of this. Thanks very much. I've really enjoyed sharing these ideas with you.